Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Pastor Shay, aka Chaplain G, coming back at you with another word of encouragement for today. Yo, so here's my word of encouragement for you, and I hope you receive this, quite honestly, because I know sometimes we're in our prayer life, we're trying to follow God, and things are just not, they're not moving at the speed that we would want them to move, right? You're like, God, where are you? Like, I got this thing happening. I got this thing happening. I'm praying for you to show up. I haven't seen you show up yet. Where are you? And the encouragement that I want to give you today is, though God's timing may not be our timing, his timing is perfect. There's a story about this man named Abraham. And if you've heard the name before, and if you're in one of the three major world religions around the world, billions upon billions of followers, Abraham is at the center of those three main world religions, right? And Abraham, around the time when he was about 99 years old, right? His wife is 90, he's 99. God comes to him and says, I'm going to bless you with so many children. It's going to be more than all the stars in the sky. And Abraham kind of chuckles to himself because, again, he's 99 years old and his wife is 90. And even his wife kind of is like, okay, fella, like that process is it's been going a long time. And but sure enough, God reworks and undoes the process within Sarah's body. The way with women, if you will. And she gets pregnant with a baby at 90 years old, 91, I guess is about the time she had her son. And they name him Isaac, son of laughter, they call him, because they laughed at God. But as you can imagine, like this son is hyper precious to them. They waited 90 some years to have this baby. You know what I mean? And so God, needing to do some extra special stuff with Abraham, decides to put Abraham to the test. And I think he's doing it for two reasons, right? One is to show Abraham like the faith in God that's going to be required for what Abraham is called to do is immense. And so he needs to test him in a big way. So I think that's the first reason he asks Isaac to sacrifice his son. I'm sorry, the test that God asked him to go through was to sacrifice his only kid. So I think that's the first reason, to show Abraham like the immense faith that it was going to take. And two, I think it's God needed to tell this story of substitutionary atonement. And that's a big theological phrase, and it's essentially a person coming in to take the place of another person or group of people. So instead of this person paying their fine, someone else comes in to pay the fine on their behalf. It's substitutionary atonement. So God asked Abraham to sacrifice his only son. Abraham's like, man, God, I don't want to do this, but I'm going to trust you that something's going to happen, that you're going to show yourself faithful because you're giving me these promises. I'm just going to have faith in you. So he takes his son up on a mountain, takes the wood, takes a knife, lays his son on top of the wood, man, puts a knife in his hand, is ready to jab it into his son's chest. And right at the last minute, God stops him. And here's the interesting part. As Isaac and Abraham went on their way up the mountain, there's this verse in Genesis chapter 22. It's in verse 7. This is Isaac talking to Abraham. He said, behold, the fire and the wood, but where is the lamb for the burnt offering? And it's in a very key spot, and I'm gonna explain why here in a minute. But as Abraham gets ready to jab the knife into his son's chest, God stops him and says, now I know you wouldn't withhold anything from me. This test of faith, by the way, it's not a test of faith that anyone else has. This was exclusive to Abraham. God wouldn't ask anybody else to do this because God was telling a very particular story through the life of Abraham. And so Abraham, when Isaac asked him that, said, God is going to provide for himself the lamb for a burnt offering. So when God stops Abraham from smashing a knife into his son's chest, Abraham looks up. In verse 13, it says, "And Abraham lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, behind him was a ram caught in the thicket with his horns, or by his horns." So if you notice, like, there's an incompleteness to the story. Abraham says that God is going to provide a lamb for himself as a sacrifice. And what he actually sees in the thicket, and when he sacrifices instead of his son, is a ram. Now, I'm no expert in animal biology, but a lamb is different than a ram. So as we're looking at the story, and if you're looking at the story arc of the entire Bible, where's the lamb? Where's the lamb that God is going to provide? Yes, God was right on time with Isaac to save him. But what God was trying to do was tell a story about, like, at the times when God could have stopped the process. He could have stopped it as they were going up the mountain, as he was laying his son on the wood. But he didn't stop it until he was raising his knife to jab it into his son's chest. God's timing is perfect, right? Because it's all a part of his plan. And the reason why it's a part of his plan is because it's actually pointing to something greater. And we see the greater thing come on the scene. It takes thousands of years of history, and we're still waiting for this lamb, right? And then we get to the New Testament in the book of John, and John 1:29. This is John the Baptist as he's seeing Jesus for the first time, and something in his spirit, God places within his spirit, and says, the promise is being fulfilled. Check out what it says in 1:29. It says, the next day he saw Jesus coming toward him and said, "Behold, the Lamb of God who takes away the sin of the whole world." See what God was doing? He was setting up a story arc, not just for Abraham's family, not just for just the exclusivity of the Israelite people, not just for the Middle East. The sins of the whole world are now coming upon the shoulders of the Lamb of God. That lamb that Abraham promised is now coming on the scene thousands of years later. Thousands of years, y'all. There's sometimes I've got stuff going on in my life right now where I've been asking God, like, where are you? When are you going to show up? Like, how much am I going to have to endure? And God keeps saying to me, wait, my timing is perfect. And here I can see this story arc from the time when this original promise was made until it's being fulfilled. God never let the promise go. He always meant to fulfill it. It just needed to be in his timing. And man, as my encouragement for you, God may not show up when you want him to, but I promise you he's going to be right on time. He has eternity in his scope, and he's ready to use your life exactly the way that he wants to. So that's my word of encouragement for you, man. Hopefully it's an encouraging word for you. Please make sure to like, share, and subscribe, all that jazz. It's totally free to y'all. But it means a lot here. Matter of fact, if you made it to the end of this, go ahead and give me a thumbs up, man, and tell your folks about what we're doing over here, man. The more you interact with the content, the more people hear it. And drop your boy a note sometime, man. I'd love to pray for you, love to chop it up with you. And I love y'all, man. Until next time, grace and peace.